Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while. Things have started to get busier and busier for me in terms of shoots and things like that. I actually left the country for the first time just to go down to England to basically stay in an empty hotel and shoot a client video, which was quite a strange experience with everything going on. In this video, I want to talk about how I make my YouTube videos in the hope that someone out there who wants to get started making videos doesn't know really how to start, where to start. Hopefully this will give you a little bit of an insight into my process and how I do planning for my videos, how I shoot them, how I edit them, things like that. Maybe you can pick up a few things, or maybe you guys can give me some pointers on how I should do this a little bit better. So first things first, I start with an idea, obviously. This is sometimes the hardest part. I can't tell you how many times I've sat trying to think of a good idea to shoot a video for YouTube. I've stared at a blank page trying to write something down for YouTube. Usually I'll just wait for ideas to kind of come to me. This doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, sometimes you get a few, so I usually will write them down on notes on my phone or something like that, so I can keep them for later. And sometimes it's good that when you get these ideas to try and execute on the idea as quickly as possible. The worst thing you can do is come up with an idea, sit on it for a while, and then you end up just sort of talking yourself out of it. I am really bad for that, so that's something I need to learn and get better at. So once I have a basic idea that I want to go with, I want to flesh that out a little bit. So I take to my laptop and I open up just like a blank Word document, and I basically just start putting everything down on paper, all the ideas and everything I've got so far for the idea. This is obviously a form of pre-production, and I think actually taking the time to do this can be the difference between a good or a bad video. This doesn't have to be absolutely everything. That will probably change quite a lot when you actually come to shoot everything, but having at least something down that you can follow along. I usually try and work it to a place where I can basically read the bit of paper and visualize the video from start to finish. I've tried like just winging videos, just sitting down and just trying to talk on camera for like half an hour and shooting B-roll and try to put it together, and I've just never really been overly happy with the outcome. I usually quite quickly start to think about what the title is going to be. The title of your video is going to greatly influence like how well your video performs, as you know, so definitely take some time to work on that and figure out, what's a clickable title. Maybe you want to throw in a little bit of clickbait, just like a little bit to get people to click on the video in the first place. Nothing wrong with that. At this point, I'll also try and have a rough idea of what my thumbnail is going to be for the video. I'll at least put something in the notes about when I'm going to take that photo or set up that shot for the thumbnail. Thumbnails are really important, obviously, because it is basically the front cover of your video, and people see so much content on YouTube that they're literally just either going to click on your video or not, usually depending on what your title and your thumbnail looks like. I'll always try and make it something related to the topic, but also something that's maybe a wee bit more eye-catching. It is like the only thing that people see of your video if it appears in their recommended, so you have to make this eye-catching because people won't click on it if it isn't. So on that document on my laptop where I've put all my ideas, I'm then going to start writing the script for my sort of A-roll talking head, basically what you're seeing right now. Having some sort of script really helps me get my points across. If you can just sit down and talk fluently and get your points across, absolutely no bother at all. More power to you. I'm really jealous because I feel like I need to write everything down and sort of take it chunk by chunk to be able to, make any sort of sense. I do hope to get much better at this in the future and be able to just sit down and do it, off the cuff, but it doesn't work for me right now, so I'll just do this for the time being. At this point, now that I have a proper structured script, I can start to sort of determine the pacing of the video, and again, that helps me sort of visualize what it's going to look like near the end. And this is when I'll start to determine B-roll shots and supporting shots. So I'll read it through and I'll think, okay, I need a shot of this here when I'm talking about that, I need a shot of this, etc, etc. You get the point. I'll do that and I'll try and put in as much of the content that I know I'm going to need to shoot after I've done the talking head. So at this point, I probably want to find some sort of music. Sometimes the music actually is the first thing that inspires me to make the video, but other times I'm looking for music to support whatever video I'm making. So I'll go on whatever music licensing service that I use and I'll look through some tracks and I'll try and visualize the video in my head, see what will fit with it. Sometimes I actually do this, just when I'm not even making a video. Sometimes I'll just flick through the music when I'm doing other work, and if I find something that I think, that will work for a video, what I'll do is I'll just save it to a folder on my desktop, keep it for later. That's a good thing to do, saves you sort of spending lots of time looking for music when you need it. For me, the music that you choose for your video is one of the most important parts, and that's how you get the story over the line. That's how you show emotion, you show the style of the video. So it's really important that you take a little bit more time to make sure that you've got a track that you like and that works perfectly for your video. So now that I have a rough script, I know what I want to shoot later on, I have the music, etc. I'm going to basically set up the shot to shoot the A-roll. So I'll set up my shot, I'll set up my lighting, I'll set up my audio, I'll have a script nearby for just in case I kind of totally forget what I'm talking about, like right there. Yeah, and I'll try and read as much of it as I can at one time. I've got a little bit better at this as time's gone on. I'm trying to minimize the cuts that are in my videos. Yeah, I do need to kind of still do it chunk by chunk, but I'll get better at it. So once this talking head part's done, I'm then going to go through my script and start to shoot the bits of B-roll that are needed to support what I'm talking about. Now that everything's filmed, it's time to get all the footage onto my computer and begin the edit. So a little side note is that I find it quite useful to create a nice tidy folder when you're putting all your footage onto your computer. I usually break this down into like different folders, so A-roll and B-roll. I'll have a music folder, I'll have a graphics folder, I'll have a sound effects folder. That just keeps it all neat and tidy so I know where anything is if I'm looking for it later on. Definitely don't just dump everything into a folder called like YouTube video 7 and leave it all messy, because you will regret that. So once my project's open, I'll drag all the A-roll right onto the timeline, and the first thing I do there is color grade it, fix audio levels and add any audio effects before I cut it up. That means when I cut it up, every one of those individual clips has all those effects applied to it, and I don't need to go back and try and add it all to individual clips. That's something I used to do and it was a nightmare. I then cut the A-roll up into the bits of content I want. I try my best to cut it in a way that takes out all the kind of ums and ahs and any sort of awkward long pauses between what I'm trying to say. This is never 100%, but I just like to try and keep things moving, keep the flow of the video nice. You can really ruin a flow by just kind of having weird pauses and things like that, so you always got to keep the information coming so that the audience doesn't get bored, or at least that's what I've found from watching so many YouTube videos. Getting really good at editing your A-roll up so that it flows correctly is a really invaluable skill to have, especially if you aren't really that comfortable in front of camera like me. It helps sort of hide all those mistakes, and it hides that little bit of inexperience that you've got behind the camera. So now that I have everything in a project, I'll start to piece together the video. I'll start to determine the flow. I'll put things in the order I want them to be. I'll have it all looking lovely, but this is when things start to get a little bit sort of rough. So one of the hardest things for me is actually learning to just say, look, this is finished, this is what it is, I'm happy with it, and put it out there. I've heard a lot of stories from people who find it really, really difficult to get to this point, and then that means that they end up not putting anything out. They basically just watch it so much that they end up getting sick of it, thinking it's rubbish, and then they scrap the whole thing. So learn to be able to just get something to the standard that you're happy with it, you're proud of it, and then put it out at that point, and then move on to the next thing. This is a really common problem for people, so if you're like me and you're the same, trust me, you're not alone. Next thing I do is I'll watch it through, make sure I've not made any mistakes. I find it really useful to watch it through first before I do the render, because there's nothing worse than making a mistake and then I have to do the render all over again. Once I've done the render though, I'll watch it through again just to be safe, because you miss things, you probably will miss things, and then I'll hit upload. This is arguably the best part of the whole process, or at least in my opinion, when I'm finally able to upload the video, and I'm excited to see what people think about the content and get some feedback from them. Depending on what you make, this process is, to be honest, it's really personal, so don't worry if you don't make your videos exactly like me. By no means that I know exactly the best way to make them. Lord knows it takes me far too long to make these videos, but start, and slowly you'll sort of figure out what works for you, and things will start getting a bit quicker, and you'll sort of figure out your own style and your own preference. Without getting like sort of too deep, you should be able to sort of feel when a video is ready, and you know, when it's ready to go out there and when it's complete. I don't really know how else to explain it. Hopefully you can relate to that, but sometimes you just watch your stuff back and you know that it's ready and it's exactly where you want it to be. I hope that makes sense. So I hope this helps you out if you are someone that's looking to get started and doesn't know where to start, or at least maybe you just find this, you know, interesting to see how someone like me will plan, shoot and edit a video quite like this one. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy, consider leaving it a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.